A drama dealing with the evolution of racial equality through the eyes of the White House and the presidential administrations is the basis for our next movie review.
And all the white people
and
in those houses.
Exactly. Hello there to everyone watching, and thanks once again for returning to both RealScreenReviews.com and WeLiveFilm.com. I'm, of course, movie critic Nick Yakabuchi, and once again, I am happily joined by my guest critic, the lovely Debbie DeAngelo. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
And our next movie review is for Lee Daniels' The Butler, which opened in mid-August of 2013, and it stars Forest Whitaker, Oprah Winfrey, Terrence Howard, Robin Williams,
Jane
Fonda, James Marsden, Alan Rickman. The list is very, very long and very distinguished.
Yeah, impressive.
This film comes to us, as I said, from director Lee Daniels, who directed Precious from a few years ago, and The Paperboy from last year or the year before, which wasn't very well received. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to my guest critic to tell us a little bit about Lee Daniels' The Butler, and please take it away.
In this movie, we witness a transformation of Forest Whitaker's character from a boy working in the cotton fields to his training as a private butler to landing his ultimate job of butler in the White House. And at the same time, we catch glimpses of the struggles going on in the 1950s to 1980s, as well as some of the personal struggles going on within his own family structure.
Very good description. I don't think I could have put that any better.
Unlike you,
you must have made notes.
Yeah, I think of things beforehand.
Okay, at this point, I usually try and, excuse me, I usually try and guess whether or not Debbie liked or disliked the movie. And I'm going to say that from the trailer alone, I would say that she would love this movie. But you know what? After seeing it, I don't know. I'm going to say that you liked the movie.
Loved the movie.
Did you really? Did you like it?
I did.
Do you think it's like one of the year's best films? Because that's what seems like a lot of the consensus from the critics.
I can tell you right up front, I'm giving it 4 hearts.
Oh, really? See,
Go ahead, tear it to shreds.
I'm not going to tear it to shreds. I did like the movie, but the biggest and main concern that I had with the film is that, in my opinion, this should have been a TV miniseries that was like 13 episodes long.
That would have been cool, yeah.
I felt shortchanged through the entire film. Do you remember the movie that we reviewed a couple years ago called Valentine's Day?
Oh, yeah.
And it had like these 50 people, and the movie just wasn't long enough, and I really got that same sense in this film.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. I didn't feel that way.
Okay.
I didn't really care for that movie, Valentine's Day.
Right, and I didn't, I didn't either. I like this movie a lot more than I liked it. But I mean, in that one regard.
Well, actually, what you dislike, and I understand, I do like, because I like the way they gave us glimpses of each of the, 7 presidential administrations.
Yeah, there was a lot of people in this.
And all of the history that they zoomed through. I mean, you're right, it would have to be much longer to cover that adequately, but I thought they did a good job with the way they did it and the time frame in which they had. I think they portrayed the emotions that they wanted to portray.
See, my concern was Eisenhower has I want to say a couple lines. You know, Robin Williams is Eisenhower. He has a couple lines. You got Liev Schreiber as LBJ, who's depicted, as a hick bigot, basically behind closed doors.
Pretty much, it was not a very positive reflection on any of our presidents.
No, not at all. I know that there has been some backlash, and I'm not debating that. All I'm saying is that I thought they were just flashes in the pan, and I really. Kennedy comes in, he signs the civil rights bills, and then he gets assassinated. Martin Luther King, Dr. King is in the hotel room for 2 minutes, and then he's assassinated. They just kind of
gets a few more minutes.
Yeah, because you see him in the beginning, he's trying to get votes from him in the White House, and I admired some of that stuff, but I just thought there wasn't enough of it, no matter where he went.
It would have been cool to see more. Yeah.
And if I may, they even there was the Butler's friends in the White House. There was his friends outside of the White House. There was his wife. There was him growing up, which wasn't depicted as Forest Whitaker. And then there was just so many other cameos, which you want to call them. I would call them glorified cameos. But there was his son who became one of the Black Panthers and was traveling with Dr. King and there was so much going on in this movie. I felt like I didn't really know anyone when the movie ended, even the butler, who the movie was actually about.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot going on, I'll give you that. It left me wanting more. However, I still thought that they did a good job at cramming all of that in there within how many minutes was that movie?
It was about 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you think that, because a lot of people are praising Oprah Winfrey, did you find her performance as stirring or rousing or...
I liked her performance. Now, I like Oprah, but I've never really watched her show often. Like, I wasn't a follower.
No, me either.
I actually work and never
in the daytime,
yeah,
in the afternoon.
But I thought she did a really great job. I like the realness she brought to that character. And when I saw the character, I thought, this isn't a very glamorous kind of character. And I liked her performance. I thought it was studded with fine performances.
I agree with that. I just thought that they were just lacking in every term of longevity. I mean, there just was not...
I wasn't sure I was going to make it through the first 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes were extremely disturbing. And there are some graphic points throughout this entire movie. And perhaps, you know, the most devastating part of it is, you know, this stuff happened, and some of it continues to happen. So that was the most poignant part of the movie for me.
Well, for me, though, getting back to the Oprah performance, I thought it was solid, but as I was watching the film, I thought that Viola Davis, the lady from Law and Order, Esapatha Murkison, or CCH Pounder, who I just saw in Mortal Instruments, all could have stepped in and played this part just as well as she did. And they were making like a big to-do that she was in the film, and I just, I don't know.
The same could probably be said for Forest Whitaker and other people in that. I mean, there are other people you could have brought in who are just as fine of actors. I think maybe they're making a big deal of it because it's her return to acting.
That could be too.
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing I really thought was refreshing was their parenting techniques, because it reflected more, I think, of what happened when we were younger. You know,
absolutely.
You disrespect your parents, it's fish or cut bait, man. You know, nothing slides through. And the two of them provided a united front, and they exhibited some tough love.
No, I agree with that totally. I thought those moments actually were few in the film. I thought they used shocking techniques to really try and drive this point home, because they didn't spend any long time on any one point. And this film, I never thought took any chances. I thought it played it safe, like most of the time. Like, it just would skim the surface.
You think the first 10 minutes?
I want to say it skimmed the surface, and it showed you like the most violent aspect of what they could, and then they just moved on. Like Lee Daniels, did you watch that Precious from a couple years ago, his movie Precious?
Yes.
Okay, that was, I thought, a movie that every time that movie could have taken a chance and could have taken a risk, it did. It absolutely did. And I thought this movie just kind of skimmed the surface. But in between these two films, Lee Daniels made a movie called The Paperboy, which was one of the worst received films of last year. And I really felt like, as I was watching this, he tried to take a film that was going to hit the moral note every step of the way, and something that was really kind of safe. I'm not saying that it wasn't well executed. I'm not saying that it wasn't well acted. I just thought that it was safe in such a way.
Speaking of Lee Daniels, why is it, as I've been wondering, every time you see it advertised, it's never just called The Butler. It's called Lee Daniels The Butler.
Yeah, it was actually, there was like a big to-do about that. There's like a 1932 short film in Warner Brothers library called The Butler, and they have kept that on their list of 1,000 titles that they still use and operate with. And when this movie came out, they were just pretty much ignoring that law and just basically infringing on the copyright. And Warner Brothers wrote them letters to the Weinstein Company saying, you know, don't use this, you have to change it. You can change it to Lee Daniels The Butler, and it had to go all the way to a court hearing, and they were ended up fined $25,000 a day until they changed it to Lee Daniels The Butler, which I think is rather interesting. So you have already said that you are going to give this a perfect 4 hearts out of 4 hearts. I'm actually going to say that I just had flaws with this. I really thought that it played it safe. I thought there could have been, I thought they made 2 hours into what should be a much longer period of time. I just felt shortchanged. I'm going to say 2.5 stars out of 4.
Whoa, 2.5.
It's well worth seeing. It's a very good movie. It's well acted, but
worth seeing, but only 2.5 stars worth.
Absolutely, I say that there was just so much left hanging in this movie, and I really feel like it wasn't one of the best films of the year. I really felt almost shortchanged a lot through this film, and I know that's surprising because it is well made. I'm not going to say that.
Don't shortchange this guy.
It is well made. It is well acted. I just felt like, at the end of the day, I didn't learn anything new because of this film.
It didn't touch you?
Not like The Help. I mean, The Help, I think, centralized on these couple characters. It took a moral stance from the main ladies that were in it, the main villain that was in it, the girl telling the story, and it really compacted a story in there. And you got all these emotions but this was broad over so many different people that I really felt like I didn't learn anything. And,
Okay.
you know, it's just, it's one of those times. I know I'm the minority on this one, and I'm probably going to get beat up for my...
I don't know. I haven't seen any of the reviews. I try never to look at any before we review some, so I don't know how well
this is running
received.
really good. I mean, like, the critics have really liked this. I think the general consensus is to like this movie. And I wanted to like this movie, but I really felt like I wish that HBO or FX or some cable studio that wouldn't have to be held by any constraints of network television could have really taken this, and like I said, we could have had a whole episode on every one of these presidents and every event that was in there.
Maybe they're assuming that we do know a little bit about our own
I
American
agree.
history.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and I can see where all the good reviews are coming from. It just didn't hit me the right way. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your opinions. And remember, people, we're not always right, but only when it comes to the movies. And thank you for your attention.